Hello friends! Welcome back to my channel where I share my experience going from a brick and mortar teacher teaching in the schools to teaching full-time online. In today's video, I am sharing with you the pros and cons to teaching for Wales English. Let's get into it. First thing is first, I'm going to cover all the pros and then I will get into the cons. The first thing that is a big pro for me is more students to teach at a time. So for other companies I've worked for, it's usually just one. However, with Wales, I get to teach up to 2 students for the level that I'm certified to teach, which makes the classroom more engaged, better conversation. I feel like the students are more comfortable when they have a peer in the class, and it's more entertaining for me because I get to teach them how to interact with each other in English, and it just makes it so much more fun and kind of gives it that other layer that you wouldn't have maybe with another ESL company. Number 2, the training that Wales English offers. So when I first signed my contract, one of the first things that I needed to do was do the training to teach trial classes. That is where you will start. If you have joined Wales English, you will start teaching trial classes. That's how you kind of get your feet wet and get things rolling. So they want you to take a live training with an experienced teacher. So you have to book that depending on your availability, and they do have a wide range of times. So if you're in maybe a different time zone, that's okay. They offer times for me that was like 1 in the morning, and I was like, well, that's perfect for somebody else, but not for me. One reason that I really love the live training is that you have the opportunity to ask questions. Since it is live and it is an experienced teacher, there's that comfortability in asking someone who has done it before. Number 3, one of the other big reasons I am loving Wales so far is the support. So if you saw my video last week on comparing Wales English and VIPKid, I'll link it down in the description box below. I shared with you guys that Wales English offers a support system called TC, and that's your teacher support person that can chat with you most days of the week. I think a lot of them take like 2 days off a week. I've had 2 TCs in my time so far. I'm not sure why they changed mine, but one of them has, like, in her little name on the app, it says off Wednesday and Sunday. So I know, like, respect her time on her days off. And then some of them, they just won't reply if it's their day off. This is new teacher, like, mess ups, so bear with me. You know how it is starting a new job. You feel like you're fumbling all the time and you're just trying to like wrap your head around the way things work. Wales English, your students have homework a lot of the time, and it is your responsibility to look over it, check it, and grade it, and get it back to them in a timely manner. Now, they do ask that you check that homework and send it back to the student within 72 hours. So one of my first weeks, I misread the time that it was submitted, and I thought I had another day because it's in Beijing time, and the way I converted it to my time, I was off, however, by a day. And I messaged my TC, and I was like, oh my gosh, I missed the cutoff. What do I need to do? I'm so sorry. Am I gonna get in trouble? And she was so sweet. She was like, no, 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 no. Like, don't worry. Like, you will not have reduced pay. Like, it is fine. Another pro is number 4, the consistency of the paycheck. Again, if you saw my video last time, I was teaching for another ESL company, and when the pandemic began, my classes dipped in booking. Pretty significant to where I was like, I need something else because I need to contribute to our household, and this is just not going to work for me. Since I teach a minimum of 8 hours per week, I pretty much know 90%, I would say at least, of those classes are going to be filled. Once you've been teaching for a while, it's just about 100% because you teach with those same kids every single week for months and months and months. So, unless your regular students decide to push their class back a week, which now has happened to me a couple times. For example, maybe they're busy Saturday evening and they just want to push their class back to the next week. That will just open that slot up as flexible so I could get booked for a trial class during that time. But other than that, it has been very, very consistent in my weeks for me, and that's really what I was looking for with this company. So I am very pleased with that. Sorry about that, friends. We are back. My daughter had woken up from her nap, so here I am a couple hours later. My husband is home from work and she has had dinner, and it is time for me to get back into it. So, number 5 out of pros for teaching for Wales English is the pay. Honestly, the pay has been much better for me as opposed to another ESL company. And that's because I think the incentives. So let me give you an example. The classes are typically a minimum of 50 minutes. So I just say like an hour worth of my time. If you teach a really low level, like pre-K trial, for example, those are only going to be 25 minutes, but it turns out to be the same pay. So what I mean is a trial class for that age group is going to be $9. A 50-minute class is going to be $18. So for an hour worth of your time, you're looking at $18 per hour, and that is pretty much the minimum that you would make for a class. My base pay and what I could make like max would be about $25 per hour. So basically, per hour of my time, I make anywhere from 18 to 25 an hour. And one thing that you do get is if you teach Saturday and Sunday mornings, and I'm talking Central Standard Time for me, so 5 to 7 a.m., I get an extra $5 per 50-minute class on top of my base pay, which is pretty cool. So I feel like my time is more valued as a teacher, which is big when you're taking time away from your family, or you work from home and maybe you have a sitter so you can teach, or you're asleep. um, so yeah, those are my 5 pros for teaching with Wales. I'm sure I could think of many, many more, but I want to get this straight to the point, and those are the top ones. Now I am going to get into the cons, and I want to be totally transparent and honest with you. There's going to be pros and cons in most jobs, so here they are. Number 1, one of the first things that was difficult for me when I got hired was the training. Although it was very beneficial, I couldn't start teaching classes until I had completed this trial live event. So for other companies, you may just take a training on your own time, and it's all just online. The coursework is there for you at your leisure. Whereas with Wales, it had to be live, so you had to book it. So whenever I kept going to book it, there wasn't a time that was working for my schedule. So it took me a couple weeks until I was able to get into that trial and then tell my TC that I had taken that live training, and then have her open up my first week or so for trial classes. So the process was kind of slow there, which I wasn't really expecting. Once I got my contract and I signed away and all of that, I thought I was going to be teaching right away, and it took a couple weeks. Whereas if you have a very flexible schedule, you could probably get your training really quickly. I also think there's been a lot of teachers recruited for Wales lately, and I think it's a growing company, which is great for them. And I think they have a lot of teachers on there. And so a lot of the times were booked that I was available. Like I said earlier, there would be like a 1 o'clock in the morning, but I wasn't willing to do that. I value my sleep way too much with a little one. And so I just had to be patient and wait until there was going to be a time that was available for me and a time that I could have somebody watch my daughter. Longer classes has been something that I have had to get used to. So I currently teach on 3 different platforms. I teach for VIPKid, Wales English, and OutSchool. And my classes on VIPKid and OutSchool are both only 25 minutes, no matter what I'm teaching. With Wales, most of my classes now are 50 minutes, which 25 and 25, that's 50 minutes. However, you're on for 50 minutes straight. And it's not bad, it's just an adjustment. So for example, I'll teach like one day a couple of VIPKid classes and the next day I'll teach Wales. And I can just tell that it's like, oh, it's hard to be like 100% that full 50 minutes. Number 3, this was kind of one of my pros for me, but I could see how this might hold people back. And that's the fact that you are stuck to a schedule. So if you're someone that likes to just kind of open up some slots here and there, or you don't want to be doing this consistently for a long period of time, you may want to really sit down and think about if Wales is going to be the best for you, just because at the very minimum, you have to do 8 hours every single week, which is no big deal to me. I just teach 4 days a week for 2 hours and I hit that. And it's 5 to 7 a.m. right now, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And most of the time my husband's home. He hasn't left for work yet. And then on the weekends, I get that $5 bonus for each class that I'm teaching. So that's $20 extra per week just for teaching on the weekends. The other weekend, you can be like, oh, I'm going out of town. I don't want to teach this Saturday. It doesn't work like that. So you got to take your laptop with you or whatever, which that can be like totally a pro. And people love to travel the world and teach for online teaching companies, and so that's kind of different for everyone, but I did want to put that in there, is that it is a consistent schedule. You have to stick with what you say. Your fixed time slots are going to be each week. You can't be changing them because you're going to have regulars pretty early on that will stay with you for months and months and months, and they keep that slot. Number 4 is something that has also been unique for me, is homework. So any other company that I have worked for thus far, I have not had to give homework, assign homework, grade homework, anything like that. However, with Wales, there is an assignment at the end of most of the lessons, and you do have to check it, correct it, and send it back. At first, it was a little bit overwhelming because I teach 2, 4, 6, 8 classes a week, and most of them have 2 students in them. So that was a lot of homework I was getting back either every day or every couple days. They'd like all come in at a wave, and you have to get it back within 72 hours, which is about 3 days. So that doesn't seem like a lot. But at first, when you're just getting into it, it's like, how do I grade this? What's the best program for me to use? So what I do is I use Canva and I plug their document in there and I add stickers and text, and I'd love to do a video on that sometime to show you guys exactly what I do. But now that I have it down, it's so much quicker. And the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is about feedback. So at first I felt like this was a con because the feedback was different than other platforms I have used, and it seemed to be more daunting. So for a trial class, when you give feedback, you have to place the student. So it kind of feels like a lot of pressure when you're first starting, like, oh my gosh, am I placing them correctly? And there's kind of a lot of documents you have to have at your fingertips in order to do so. For example, when you teach a trial class, you will go through and score the student in several different areas. You'll come up with a number, and based on that number is where you're going to place them. So say I taught a kindergarten trial class and they got, for example, 20. I have to look at that conversion chart and see where 20 falls in the kindergarten section, and then that tells me where I'm going to place this student. Although whenever I started teaching regulars, the feedback is the same for every class. It's a few questions based on different areas throughout the curriculum, and then you have to leave 2 successes, 2 strengths, and 2 like areas for improvement. And I have gotten quicker at that now that I've been teaching for a couple months. And what I quickly found out is that you don't have to do feedback on every single class. So it only comes about every few lessons. So it's actually a big time saver because when you only have 10 minutes between a class and you have 2 students, I have found that it is kind of hard. Like if I have a 5 o'clock class and it goes till 5:50, I had 2 students in that class and I need to do feedback. It's a little challenging for me still at this point to get 2 students' feedback done in those 10 minutes. So what I usually try to do is take notes as I go, and then when I'm done with those 2 full classes, I'll do everybody's feedback together, and that's just worked for me as long as you're taking notes, because it's definitely easy to forget what happened at 5 a.m. when that 6 a.m. class is still fresh in your mind. I think that is it for all of my pros and cons. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you could like down below, give a thumbs up, subscribe if you're interested in following along more of my content on my online teaching experiences. I will put the link for the other video I mentioned down below, so check that out if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.